Hi all, I'm Dan Smigrod, founder of the We Get Around Network Forum. Today is Wednesday, January 17th, 2018, and you're watching WGAN-TV live at 5. Our guest today, Dr. Anton Yakubenko. He is the co-founder and CEO of Geo CV. Anton, good to see you today.
Hey Dan, thank you for inviting.
You bet. Good, and actually, always good visiting with you, and good seeing you today. So we have a really, I think, very interesting program. I want to say Matterport versus Geo CV. This is kind of a little David and Goliath story that we got here. So why don't you take us through, maybe even just starting out with maybe just a quick sentence or two of what Geo CV is, but then let's do a deep dive into show and tell.
Yeah, sure. So Geo CV is a 3D capture and reality company. Our long-term vision is basically to enable everyone capture the world around us in 3D and share it in augmented virtual reality as well as using the web. And right now we are focusing on creating and distributing a product for capturing spaces in high quality 3D, mainly for real estate and hospitality.
Fantastic. So show us what it looks like, because what you just described sounds like Matterport, and I think it'd be helpful to actually see what Geo CV looks like.
Yeah, sure. So let me share the screen. And I will show you just a sample 3D tour of ours. So basically, it's, in my opinion, the best way to represent the property. It has the what Matterport calls dollhouse view, but I prefer to be, more serious and not call it dollhouse, rather call it like the 3D layout view, where you can view the space from arbitrary viewpoint, mainly to understand the layout of the space. Then you can jump inside and walk through high quality panoramas. So you can look around, you can walk around, and everything runs smoothly on any desktop or mobile device.
I should point out here, Anton, there may be some latency. It looks pretty good to me, but there may be some latency, not because of the Geo CV platform, but because of how we do WGAN TV as an interactive program. So you all watching the show today, if it doesn't look silky smooth, really it's because of WGAN TV, not because of Geo CV.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for mentioning that. So basically, I encourage everyone to go to geocv.com and tap gallery, and then you can see some samples of our 3D tours done for like top brokerages in New York, where we originally has started our business. And basically, getting back to the viewing experience, in addition to the 3D layout mode and first-person walkthrough mode, we also have the textured floor plan mode, where we can show the real, like I say, usual schematic 2D floor plan, black and white overlay on top of the 3D model. So it makes it very clean cuts, and you at the same time can see the dimensions of the room labels, as well as it hides, some imperfections in the 3D scan in this way.
Looks like Matterport, and on floor plan view, I would say even better than Matterport. So
I do think so as well.
Yeah. So how do you capture this? How do you create this 3D model and be able to walk through it like this?
Yeah, sure. So basically, this is, I believe, our main differentiator from everyone else in the market, including Matterport. So we are basically the only company that leverages a 3D-enabled smartphone for capturing. So perhaps you have heard about like Google Tango project, and they have released a couple of phones with embedded 3D cameras. That's basically the devices that we could use. So it's a phone with a 3D camera, either embedded or as an attachment to the phone. Right now, we're using a regular Samsung Galaxy S8 phone with an occipital structure sensor attached to it. I can show you how it looks like. Give me a moment.
Okay. So two different smartphone solutions. One in this example that you'll show us is occipital, has a attachment, an accessory that pairs with a smartphone. And in this case, you're using, I'm sorry, a Samsung Galaxy
S8.
an S8, and
Yes.
so the what we're looking at there is the occipital attached to the smartphone, and then it looks like it's attached to some type of rotation device.
Yeah, this is like a pretty small panoramic head, which basically rotates the phone into axis to allow the phone to capture 360 image and 360 depth information. And it rotates the phone pretty fast, so it allows capturing like around 30 images in less than a minute. And it looks like this. So basically, the capturing process is pretty similar to Matterport. You basically move the tripod from spot to spot and allow it to spin around and capture the imagery around it. So basically, at each position, we capture multiple exposures, so we can then create high quality HDR imagery, as well as we capture a lot of depth information that we can then stitch into a mesh, and we can use the same like panoramas for texture in the mesh. The panoramic head itself right now that you see is our current prototype that we actually do use in production. But when we release the do-it-yourself version, it of course should look slicker and more like product ready rather than being like 3D printed.
And I think if I heard correctly, in the case of smartphone capture, we're talking about two different solutions. The first is an accessory that attaches to the device, and then the second solution is a smartphone that has the data capture built into the device itself.
Yeah, you're right, Dan. So basically, before that, we have used particular models of the phones based on Google Tango platform. For example, the one from Lenovo or Asus, which have an embedded 3D camera. You don't need any additional attachment to it. But it has appeared that the quality of this 3D camera, as well as the quality of regular camera, were not good enough for the quality we want to deliver to the clients. That's why we have switched to like a Samsung phone, which has a great regular camera and an occipital structure sensor, which is a pretty good 3D camera. The promise for the future is that more and more like consumer phones would have embedded 3D cameras. For example, if you look at iPhone 10, it already has a 3D camera that is front facing and faces your face. It's pretty high quality, but it's short range, so it's not yet capable of scanning interior spaces. But the rumors say that iPhone either this year or in 2019 could have a good enough embedded rear-facing camera. It would be mainly used for augmented reality because it's something that Apple invests in a lot. If you take a look at AirKit, and they have invested something like 350 million in one company that does depth cameras, and several years ago they have acquired PrimeSense, which is another depth cameras company. So we definitely believe that over the period of 1 to 2 years, we will see like iPhone with 3D camera. And basically, when iPhone would have it, it will become a standard, and you will see other phones that you like have in your pocket with these 3D cameras. And in that future, basically, you won't need to buy like a particular phone and a particular attachment. The only thing that you will need is like small and inexpensive panoramic head, and you are good to go.
So if I hear you correctly, your Geo CV is in this for the long term. You see a natural progression of the development of the hardware, both the photography and the scan data. And so today you're using an interim solution that is a mashup of this particular smartphone with the occipital in order to capture the depth of data. But I think what I'm hearing is within a year's time, presumably when Apple comes out with the 11, that it'll have everything that one needs for capturing photography and data within one device, and you're not going to need an accessory to attach to it.
Yes, that's totally right. And basically, it's in our DNA of the company to be hardware agnostic. When we started with like regular Kinect, like Microsoft Kinect. Then Intel RealSense 3D cameras have appeared. Then Google Tango has appeared, and we see like more and more like manufacturers of different 3D cameras. Before that, there was, I'd say, no kill application for 3D cameras, but now people have found that it's like augmented reality. You need to have a good enough 3D camera, rear facing, to perform good tracking, to be able to hide your Pokemon under the table or something like this. So this, we believe, will be the driver for the integration of 3D cameras into smartphones, and we will be just leveraging this. I would also say here, for the better understanding of like everyone, what do we mean by 3D camera? Because people tend to call 3D camera whatever, like 360 camera, stereo camera, they all call it 3D. But in our opinion, like the stuff that could be called the 3D camera is mainly about something that delivers depth information. So the cameras that I usually deliver in depth information are based either on structured light technology, when an infrared pattern is projected and the infrared camera captures it from a little bit distant viewpoint. And because of the distortion of this pattern and stereo vision, it can understand depth. Another technology is time of flight, which was basically used in some of Tango devices, when some special modulated light is projected, it bounces back off the surfaces, and the time traveled is measured. Basically, each of these technologies have pros and cons, but we try to be hardware agnostic, and whatever best comes to the market, we are ready to use it. The good thing about these cameras is that they can work in like untextured environments. For example, if we talk about the room that I'm sitting in, or the room you're sitting in, we have like flat white walls. And if we use any like stereo camera, which is based on extracting depth information from texture, from correspondences between two cameras, it will fail delivering the good geometry for textureless areas. And if we talk about capturing spaces, especially like real estate, there are plenty of surfaces without any texture. That's why relying on a depth camera basically gives us a ability to deliver a really robust solution rather than based on pure photogrammetry, which is definitely very promising, but for real interior spaces would require, I say, more of artificial intelligence or machine learning to extract the information in textureless areas.
You mentioned photogrammetry. I know this is a topic that could probably make many people's eyes glaze over, but it is so important. If you could maybe take a moment and maybe in layman's term, try to describe photogrammetry and why that is maybe a secret sauce for what Geo CV is working on.
Yeah, so basically in our case, we are not actually using the photogrammetry in the like classical understanding. We create geometry based on the depth data that comes in raw format from the depth camera. But I think that for the virtual tours and 3D capture and reality ecosystem as a whole, photogrammetry is definitely a great technology, and we have plans on our roadmap to basically marry photogrammetry with capturing using a 3D camera. Photogrammetry basically means that you can extract geometry or 3D information from regular pictures. You can do it just from stereo camera or maybe from multiple shots of a regular camera, and it works great as soon as you have good enough texture. But when it comes to like surfaces without like distinct texture features, it becomes more problematic. There are still some potential solutions to solve this, for example, by understanding the world and saying this is like a wall, that's why it should be flat, and here is the wall intersects with the ceiling, that's why this should be its geometry. But this is also something that will require, say, more time to be developed in a really robust product level solution. And what you can do with a 3D camera right here, right now, is already a product which is ready for the market. So I think that in the future, we'll take the best of photogrammetry in terms of the quality that you can get from high resolution images and marry it with the robustness that we can get from the depth camera to deliver at the same time robust and high quality solution to the market.
I would imagine when you're discussing capturing depth data and photogrammetry, that this is probably the best of both worlds in the long-term view
Yes.
of Geo CV, because this enables you not only to capture the flat walls that are behind us, but to be able to go outdoors and not have any issues with infrared that we might have with the Matterport, for example.
Yes, definitely. And basically speaking about outdoor in particular, being us hardware agnostic, it gives us the chance to use the new devices coming in the market. For example, Intel has recently introduced a new 3D camera, which claims to work pretty good outdoors because it has both the infrared projector and two cameras. So when you see the texture, you can use just stereo. When you don't see the texture, you can use infrared projection. And it's all done inside the sensor. And the sensor is as small as occipital. So if it shows up well in terms of performance and working with smartphones, it would be a good, like, for example, supplement or replacement, so we can go easier outdoors. And later, describing, I would say, our particular features, I will show you a couple of examples how we currently capture outdoors, even using the current generation of devices.
Okay. I personally, I'm fascinated by this topic. If we have some time towards the end of the show, maybe we'll come back to this. I just, before I move on though, I just wanted to ask, just my own personal geeky question. This is my iPhone 8. And when
Mm-hmm.
I saw that this had a dual lens, to me, I thought this was like the Trojan horse of the natural progression of Apple to be able to move in the direction that you're
Mm-hmm.
describing. I don't have a PhD at the end of my name, but am I thinking the right thing, that this is like the Trojan horse? You have to have this dual lens in order to move in the direction of the
Yeah, so basically the dual lens that you have in your iPhone, it basically, the distance between the lenses is pretty small. That's why you can capture depths only at a short range. For example, you can capture your face and, segment your face out of the background. But the problem is that the quality or the accuracy of depth extraction, the error grows quadratically depending on the distance, and it means that with such a close lenses to each other, it will be very hard to measure the geometry of something of, I don't know, 10 feet away or something like this. That's why I think that having two cameras is a good step towards this 3D future, but moving them a little bit more distant from each other and adding some active camera that projects something or measures depths in any other active way. This is the best way to go to make a really robust and reliable solution for any type of environments.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So I think, Anton, I'm hearing two exciting things. Being perhaps technology agnostic in terms of how Geo CV evolves. Today, you have a solution that costs thousands of dollars less upfront as an investment. We'll talk more about money later, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
then in the long term, whatever device that we have in our pocket will likely have everything that we need in order to accomplish what you've been describing.
Yeah, definitely. And if we continue about the differentiators of GeoCV from Matterport as well as many other players in the market, so the first one is definitely the being hardware agnostic and using affordable off-the-shelf hardware. The second one is being open platform in comparison to being closed platform, and I'll talk about this in detail in a little bit. And the third one is basically the different business model, which is a combination of do-it-yourself model, which most technology providers use, and a service model married together. So if we go about being an open platform, we basically allow our photographers or our editors to edit the data that they have captured. The most like
versus Matterport, where we as a photographer cannot edit any of our content, or at least we cannot edit within the terms of service of Matterport, that we can't edit our imagery.
Yeah, so basically the most popular example is camera reflections and mirrors. So when you're selling like 10 million apartment or home, you want to be like, perfect. And camera reflections just do not speak for this perfection. So by default, we remove camera reflections, or if you want, you can leave it. It's like up to you as a photographer. If you want to improve the colors, for example, you want to, make the views in the windows to look like better, that's also up to you. Of course, we should keep, honest and reasonable about the content. So if you show a space and then Photoshop everything that it looks totally different, that's not the way we want to go. But if it's some minor changes that only enhance the perception of the space and do not represent the property, I think this is very valuable in the business we're all working with, similar to what professional photographers do with still photos.
How else is Geo CV different from Matterport?
Yeah, so the third differentiator is basically our business model. Our idea is that we as a company and we as a community of service providers need to increase the market share of listings that have 3D tours. And in my opinion, the best way to do this is basically to join forces and to offer the best service to the customer, which should be affordable and very convenient. So basically, we have two business models which would eventually converge. Currently, we're actually acting as a service provider by ourselves. So we basically contract photographers. We provide them hardware for free. We provide them training for free. And we care about everything like customer acquisition, customer support, all post-production and so on. The photographers go and basically shoot on our behalf.
And this is in the greater New York City area.
Yeah, so basically right now we are serving New York, but very rapidly we expand to other cities. For example, right now our photographers are shooting in Boston because we have won a contract for like a large amount of jobs in the East Coast. And step by step, we'll be introducing our network and our service model into more and more locations. So basically, a service model when photographers work on our behalf is one way. And the second way is basically the standard do-it-yourself solution model, where we provide the hardware. We basically make no money on the hardware because like the phone and occipital structure sensor, you can buy it like on Amazon. And the only thing that we sell at its cost is the panoramic head, which costs only like several hundred bucks. And in this case, you can be like an entrepreneur by yourself and serve your own clientele at whatever prices and whatever packages you want. My vision is that basically even now we get that much demand that we cannot handle by ourselves. And what we want to do is basically to say to the network of our photographers, here's the great technology, but on top of it, here is basically a flow of customers, and they're not like leads. You don't need to like pitch and sell to them. They basically are already ordering jobs. So if you like join the network, you basically get a constant flow of business. So most of our photographers, though they have started like I said, very part-time, right now they are working almost like full time and shooting multiple jobs per day and getting like pretty good money, I would say. So in some like locations like our home base, New York, we will still like, contract more and more like freelancers. But in some locations where we want to put the foot into the door, we are eager to work with existing service providers who already have all the capacity. They are either photographers or have some photographers working on their behalf, and we can work together. The only thing that will differ, I would say, case by case, depending on what we do and what the photographer does, is basically the revenue sharing. So if like we do the heavy lifting in terms of customer acquisition, post-production, customer support, we get like the most money. If we only provide the technology and you do all the rest, you get the most money. But at the same time, you can get the flow of customers from us and do your own business.
And may I get clarification on the panoramic head?
Yes.
Today is that the hardware that we looked at in that video of the head, that's still in development, but even in development stage, you're still using it in the field.
Yes, so basically this is definitely a prototype. It costs us around $500 to produce one panoramic head, and right now we're working with photographers, I would say, more like in-house, so we can be in touch with them when something goes wrong and we need their feedback and so on. So it's in a more like, I say, controlled environment. We do not yet spread this like devices everywhere, but if you are in some of the areas that we already have some presence, like New York is definitely the best option, but where we'll be growing into like other cities pretty soon. That's the best time to like catch up with us and say like, I'm interested. And as soon as we like have, like a spare unit, we can give it to a photographer and basically start working together for the, like, at least for the orders that we already have in our pipeline.
And there are other heads that rotates iPhones, smartphones
Yes.
today. Are any of those rotators compatible with Geo CV?
Yeah, I wish. Basically, we have tested quite a few of them, and mainly they have two problems. The major one is basically the speed of rotation. So in our case, we need to capture like 20, 30 images, and we want to be pretty fast on site. And the panoramic heads that we have tested, at the best, they can do this in like 2 minutes or something like this. And so ours are already like a couple of times faster. This is like the main, I think, thing. The second one is basically the control of this panoramic head. So it has a Bluetooth model inside, and it's controlled via the same smartphone which is rotated. So you don't need any other device like iPad or whatever to control your capturing setup.
And you mentioned 20 to 30 images. What kind of file size, or maybe relate that into quality, and am I able to export my still photography so that I'm shooting both 2D and 3D at the same time?
Yeah, definitely. So basically, if you look at the Samsung Galaxy camera, it shoots at like 12 megapixels. And if you take like 20, 30 images, your result is basically 200 or 300 megapixels panorama. It's crazy resolution that you don't need actually for anything. That's why right now we like downsample the images that we capture, just to preserve more disk space and more traffic to upload the data. But the potential is that if you want to use it for like getting high quality photography, the resolution is there already, and you can like crop out a really high quality images out of this camera, because we capture multiple exposures and like high resolution. Everything is like stable on this panoramic head. So definitely, if you wanna crop out some images, that's a good way to go. In our experience, we initially have started from offering real estate brokers that our photography would come out of their panoramas. And in terms of the quality of images, it was definitely good enough. The only, downside was that in professional real estate photography, you usually select a little bit different height, which is lower than you capture the virtual tours, and you usually select different viewpoints. For example, if you're shooting a bedroom, perhaps you'll be shooting from the corner of the room. You won't be shooting, like in the middle of the room where you want to place your panorama. And because like shooting like from with a wide angle lens in your DSLR camera is already pretty like fast and efficient, right now when we provide the package of virtual tour and photography, we use the scanner for capturing virtual tour, and in parallel, the photographer can shoot stills in another room. So it's a pretty efficient process. But in some cases, when, for example, the photographer has been, like other photographer has been already on site, and the client says, I already have photos, I don't need like new photos. Sometimes after that, they say, I didn't like the photos of that photographer. Can you do something for me? And we say, yes, we can extract photos from the virtual tour, and you can be in charge of selecting, the best angles the way you want it to be.
So before we move on from this topic, I'm a little bit confused. So it sounds like I have the option of using Geo CV to shoot two-dimensional pictures that I can export out of the 3D. Your recommendation is use a DSLR, a wide-angle lens, shoot from the corner of the room, lower the camera. You're shooting something that's really from a different perspective. But if you want to use GeoCV to capture the still imagery, you can still do that. And I presume in the post-production, in the workflow, there's a way to exclude the images that were shot expressly for 2D at a reduced camera height from the corner of a room.
Yes, so you're totally right. You can do everything that you have described. I think that in our case, because we have started from one of the most expensive real estate markets in the world, the quality bar here for regular photography is set extremely high. And for us to deliver the quality that people want in terms of the say angles, we either can use the same scanner and like extract the photos out of it, but just in terms of efficiency on site, why not do this in parallel using a wide angle lens on a DSLR camera and the virtual tour? So I think it depends on the your customer and your use case. For example, if I was a real estate agent, probably I would be satisfied with cropping out the images out of the camera. If I'm serving some, not the super high-end market, it's also good enough. But when you are shooting like $5 million or $10 million dollar apartment, the customer expects, the top level quality. So I think it's just a matter of being efficient on site, first of all.
So, so that kind of suggests that as you expand in the greater New York City area or the East Coast, that even though we're looking at a solution for capturing a 3D tour is being relatively easy, fast, and simple, that said, you would still be seeking out professional photographers as your first choice so that they're also shooting a DSLR wide angle architecture photography and potentially offering other services such as video. I don't know if it would be aerial in New York City, but other visual storytelling solutions that a client might want.
Yes, definitely. So at least if we speak about like Manhattan or Brooklyn in New York, this is like a high-end market by default. Like, the one-bedroom apartment here costs like $1 million. And that's why definitely our initial bet is on the photographers who can do both good real estate photos, and we don't need, to invest a lot in teaching them, though we can if we want to, if it's required. And at the same time, they can do the virtual tour scanning. In other areas, like if we talk about in the New York area, if we go like to Bronx or whatever, in this case, like someone that is capable of just scanning, but doesn't have the skills or the creativity and doesn't want to learn in terms of capturing like photos, I think it's also possible for them doing jobs there, and it will be good enough for that kind of locations. Another example is basically rentals. So rentals commissions are significantly smaller than the sale commissions, and that's why probably you as a photographer won't ask the same money for a rental versus a sale unless it's a huge rental. And in this case, you can like basically say, okay, I do maybe like more volume in rentals, I'm like fast on site, and the quality is good enough for these customers, but I capture this market which is basically untapped by almost like anyone. So if you look even at like New York market, when I was searching for apartment myself, honestly, the 95% of photos were captured on the phone by the agents, and they look extremely bad. So if you can say to an agent, I can do this for you at a very like convenient and affordable manner, we see that they will start using this. Just do not treat them as it's like $1 million listing. It's just a utility for them to do their job better.
Yeah. Well, if we go back for a moment to the incidentally, y'all, if you're just tuning in, you're watching WGAN TV live at 5. We are live. It's 5:37 p.m. Eastern Time, Wednesday, January 17th, 2018. We're visiting with Dr. Anton Yakubenko. He is the co-founder and CEO of Geo CV. Solution looks very much like Matterport, so we're trying to ask all those questions about how Geo CV differs from Matterport. Anton, in the do you call it shooting or scanning?
It depends, because sometimes we do like regular photography as well as scanning. We call it usually shooting.
Shooting. So when a photographer is shooting, in order to construct that 3D model, do you need to be shooting every 5 feet, every 7 feet? Can you just shoot in 10 shots, one in the kitchen, the living room, the bedroom, the bathroom, and boom, you're out? Or
yeah, so basically I think that's it's mostly dependent on the hardware that we're using rather than on the like software or like technology. So it's pretty similar to the constraints that Matterport have, and you basically shoot for two things. One is to have a decent walkthrough experience, and second one to get a high quality 3D model. So that for the first one, probably you can shoot 2 times less panoramas because, like you said, you have one in the kitchen, one in between the kitchen and the bedroom, to make this smooth transition, one in the bedroom, and so on. But to create a good quality 3D scan, you probably need to add more panoramas. Usually we shoot every, I don't know, 5, 8, 10 feet. It depends on the space. For example, in a smaller space, you probably want to make maybe a few more spots, just not to make it look that small. And because when you walk around, you want to have at least a little bit of space to walk around. But in larger spaces, it doesn't make sense to make this very short steps. And of course, there is like an option to hide the 3D scan mode, so you can only see the panoramas or the panoramas and the floor plan mode. And still, even if you capture relatively sparse panoramas, it's enough information for us to extract the floor plan, which is extracted from the scan with all the dimensions.
So what I'm hearing is that shooting with Geo CV is very much like Matterport. So if you're presently a Matterport photographer and you're thinking about Geo CV, it should be a similar process. I
Yeah,
suppose
the switch is easy.
Yeah, and I suppose thinking about maybe two audiences here. If you're a Matterport photographer, why might you be thinking of GeoCV at all? And certainly, as GeoCV moves out of the greater New York City area, expands to the East Coast of the United States and beyond, it may be that they're just simply feeding you opportunities for jobs that have come in specifically for GeoCV. So know that if there is some investment in equipment on your part, that you're shooting it just like you would Matterport. And then, if perhaps for those who are visiting the We Get Around Network Forum, maybe perhaps found us originally because they were thinking about buying Matterport, wanting to know what kind of competitors that Matterport has. Then, if everything you've probably been reading in the We Get Around Network Forum about shooting or scanning with Matterport would typically apply to GeoCV. I think there are a couple of exceptions. One is perhaps on shooting outdoors, that you could still literally have, you don't have the constraints with GeoCV as you would with Matterport shooting outdoors. Matterport might say, well, you can shoot 360 views, blah, blah, blah. But I guess what I would say is you'd be able to shoot contiguously outdoors without having to switch into some other capture mode.
Yeah.
And that if you're struggling, I know in my case, I've had instances where trying to just go up a staircase that's looked like the back of my wall or your
Mhm.
wall there, which is extremely difficult. That the GeoCV solution is not going to have that challenge.
Yeah, so basically speaking about outdoors, mainly is the limitation of the hardware. Basically, these 3D cameras which work in infrared range, they interfere or compete with the sun. So when you have like bright, sunny weather, it's problematic, and it's the same for us and for Matterport. But we have found, I think, a pretty elegant solution, to deliver the best quality content to the client if you're eager to go an extra mile. And I'd like to share the screen once again and show you.
That would be great. And I did want to ask about stitching errors. Stitching errors. I'm shooting 2 feet away from a railing.
So basically, we do have similar type of like mock-up tools, like when you can crop out, for example, mirrors or something like this. So if you get like stitching errors, it's the first thing that you can try, just like removing something that is not in place. Otherwise, you can like try to shoot like closer or more distant depending on the scan. And finally, like we rely on both like geometry and texture for alignment of scans. That's why if you see that there is not enough of both geometry and texture in the scene, just put something like a chair or like a QR code or just like a magazine or whatever, and it will be in most cases enough to make this alignment.
But I think what I'm hearing is there is some post-production control over stitching, and therefore if I know that I've shot 30 images around, that I could literally say, let's omit images 12, 13, 14, 17, 18, 11, etc., in order to force what I know would be a successful, because I'm not doing my stitch against the railing. I happen to have the shot that's parallel to the
Mhm.
railing, and therefore I can deal with that stitching error.
Yes, definitely. So basically, you can shoot more spots and then remove some of them which are not necessary. Actually, in our like own post production, we currently do have some like manual tools, to improve the quality of what we deliver after the automatic cloud post processing. So basically, when you finish the job, the data is sent to the cloud. It's processed there automatically. But the good thing is that it's not something that is set in stone. You can still edit it. And it both like edit the 3D model. Sometimes, we crop out some bad parts, which is hard to crop in 3D in the app. We can crop it like manually. We can improve the quality of panoramas. And if client has a special request, like, I have a private painting here. I don't want this painting to be visible in the virtual tour. Could you please blur it out? We can say yes. And this is a very good flexibility, I would say.
Terrific. What did you want to show us?
Yeah, so basically I want to show you the way how we capture outdoors, even with the limitations of current hardware. So basically this is the example that you can see on our website. And you can see that this is definitely not, evening. It's like a bright weather, but still you can see all outdoor area both in 3D. And when you jump here in 360 images, you can also see that it's like bright day, which won't be possible to capture with a 3D camera. And you can move around smoothly without this like teleportation like you do in regular just 360 images. The way how we do it is basically the following. We do it in two steps. In the like daytime, when we actually come to the space to shoot it, we make the first step and we capture just like 360 images outdoors, which are not aligned to the scan yet. But then when it comes closer to the sunset or to the blue hour, we do like the second step only in this outdoor area. And basically in this case, maybe it will take you like, I don't know, 5 panoramas in total. So it will take you like 5 minutes extra. But then our software is able to align 360 images captured during the day with like 360 plus 3D panoramas captured during the sunset. And then our software stitches it all together, and we use the daylight panoramas for texturing and walkthrough, and we use sunset panoramas for geometry. And in this way, it's like a good combination to deliver the real 3D experience and smooth walkthrough, even for outdoor spaces. By outdoor spaces, I don't mean, like the Central Park, but I mean like a terrace, the backyard, the front yard, the balcony, or something like this.
Mm-hmm. And is when that iPhone, excuse me, when the smartphone is rotating on the inside, shooting the 20 to 30 images, is that HDR?
Yes, so basically we take many exposures, and so you can see both in the low light conditions as well as in the bright sun. And
So
then
is the 30 images, is that say
it's
10
30
shots?
angles. It's like 30 angles, but in each angle we take multiple images from 5 to 7.
So you could have 7 times 30, and you could have 210 images making up any particular 360.
Yes, so basically in terms of the data, each panorama is maybe say couple hundred megabytes. So it's quite a lot of data, but usually we don't have a problem with it. Like our photographers, they like shoot during the day, and when they come back home, they just press upload, and everything goes to the cloud pretty quickly because like our Wi-Fi connection is good enough. If you have like a good enough connection on site and you have like unlimited data plan, you can actually start sending this data to the cloud while you are shooting. In this case, you can just get the result faster.
Fantastic. What are you showing us now?
So basically just another example that I wanted to show regarding the outdoor space. And the cool thing about this, that it's kind of, I say, street view experience in addition to a 3D experience. So you can start this viewing from actually the view of the street, and it's all like real like 3D. You can like move smoothly, and then
Again, excuse me, Anton, again, for our viewers, there is some latency that's not the cause of Geo CV, it's the cause of WGAN TV interactive television and how we do our program. So if that's giving you any angst, go to geocv.com, GEO Charlie Victor, geocv.com, and look at the gallery examples directly so you don't feel like so you can feel that they are smooth in transition.
yes, so basically I have just shown how we walk, from the street through the home, and then we can go to the backyard, and we're still in the same experience. We don't have, this back and forth when you jump to like unaligned, unrelated panorama, and then back to your experience. And given this is like the townhouse, I can go from this point to like the lower floor and so on and so on. So it's pretty cool that you don't need to leave your common environments to see the whole 3D and 360 experience in a one seamless manner.
Okay, great.
You also asked about the capturing process. So I have one more video to share with you. Basically, it's the screen capture of what you currently see in our mobile app while you are capturing. So you just start the new project. You have the, right now, the design is extremely minimalistic, and we try to make it, clean cut. And you have the minimal button. You can press capture on the device, and then it's connects to the panoramic head via Bluetooth, and it starts capturing. I'm not sure, do you hear the sound in the video? But if you hear, you can hear this, shutter sound that it produces, as well as the movement of panoramas. So after it's done, I can basically scroll it. You can see the results right in the app. The alignment of panoramas is very fast. It takes only several seconds. And one reason for this is that we don't need to transfer the data from the scanner to iPad or whatever. So it's all done inside the device. So you captured one panorama. You can capture another one. I will.
And we're watching this on a video. He's obviously not capturing in real time, just running back a screen capture of the smartphone capturing the space.
Yes, and basically you can see the preliminary 3D model. Right now we show it in 2D version, but in reality inside it's 3D. So if necessary, you will be able eventually to see it in 3D and in panoramas as well, just in raw, rough resolution. Then right now you basically are in control of, I would say, your alignment experience. So you can explicitly say to the app, this is the point that I want to align the new panorama to. In case if you know some extreme situations when you probably want to help the algorithms, you have this ability, and you can just tap on the required panorama. It will be highlighted with red color, and then you can continue capturing. I will forward this further. And after basically, or during the capture, you have this markup tools, which basically allow you to select mirrors, windows, and the areas that you don't want, and cut them off the whole 3D model to make it look clean.
Looks like Matterport.
I think that basically we at the same time that it looks familiar to you, this is good, but because you can do it with a smartphone, which is significantly less expensive and eventually will be just in your pocket, that gives you more opportunity to scale. I will right now would like to talk a little bit about our different features, as well as being an open platform rather than a closed one. And finally, you're not getting
excuse me, let's come out of screen share so we can see you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, so basically, if we get back to, I'd say, other features and being open platform, I know that other guys don't usually want, to remove their logo. I will share maybe a screen once again to show you that In our case, basically the logo or the name is already very, you know, like great rather than popping up. And for some, like I say, larger clients that are eager to cover our, I say, losses when we completely white label the solution, we could discuss white labeling as well. So if
So
you,
presently we see powered by Geo CV in very
yes,
small print, but there is an opportunity for white label.
yes, yes. Then there is like the branding block where you can, if you're, for example, doing this for an agent which wants, you know, to communicate his charisma or whatever, you can put his or her photo here, write the name and the address, information about the listing, put all the contacts right here, put the brokerage logo as well as like branded by your like logo and website as a service provider. This is a pretty like I say customizable blog. So for some guys that would prefer, for example, having like a logo of the building or brokerage here, it's also doable. So it's an opportunity for your customer to make a more customized, say, experience as well as for the service provider to put his name near this job. Um,
How does this differ? How does Geo CV differ from other virtual tour solutions? 3D scanning, other forms of navigation, floor plan,
yeah, of course.
extraction, etc.
So basically,
Take us out of the
mhm,
screen share, unless thank you.
yeah. So basically, um, if we talk about other virtual tour solutions, I would say that there is a cohort of solutions which are mainly just 360, better or worse, and they use different kind of hardware. Some of them can use a phone or a 360 camera like Ricoh Theta. Some require pretty expensive hardware, which is comparable in cost to Matterport. But from all of them, we differ in at least a couple of things. Basically, we have the 3D scan, or what Matterport calls the dollhouse, which is still eye-popping to many people in real estate, both the customers on the brokers and brokerages side, as well as to consumers, and has a great utility option and value of showing the layout the way you can't reproduce using a regular black and white flat floor plan. So one is basically having this real and realistic 3D scan. The second one is basically the smooth walkthrough experience. So in other 360 solutions, you either teleport from one room to another, and it's extremely bad because you lose the context and what's happened all around you, or you move from spot to spot, but the movement is more like, you know, zooming rather than actually moving through the space. And in our case, because we actually extract all the underlying geometry layer, it allows us to make this very smooth transitions, which feels natural. And finally, because we measure actual depth information, we can extract dimensions right from the 3D scan. And we do not need to rely on, for example, photogrammetry, which is prone to more errors because it's not measuring stuff like directly, it's measuring it from images. So I summarize that having the 3D model, having the smooth navigation among panoramas, and extracting the dimensions is perhaps the three key differentiators of what we do from other virtual tour providers. If we look at the other edge of the spectrum, there is like CGI, where you can create 3D models and whatever you want, but it will be all like not completely realistic. And I think it's great for something that has not been built yet, or something you want to change. For example, if we're talking about new development that is on the initial stage and you want to sell right now what you're going to build next year, that's a great solution. If you want to show how the like empty space would come to life with furniture, it's a great solution. But if we talk about like real estate or hospitality or whatever, that exists in reality, people prefer to see like realistic stuff rather than seeing like computer generated images. If we talk about like laser scanning, it delivers great accuracy and can work on significantly larger, I say, scale in terms of the size of or square footage of the space. But the problem is basically the cost of the hardware. Usually the time of scanning, if we're talking about stationary laser scanners in comparison to handheld or mobile solutions. And finally, the end deliverable is usually a point cloud, which is great for professionals, but it's very inconvenient for consumers. And our idea is that being hardware agnostic, we're not married with like smartphone with a 3D camera, just the best solution on the market, which we can use right here, right now for particular market. But if we go and look at other industries, for example, construction, which requires better accuracy and larger spaces, we could eventually use other types of hardware like laser scanners, 360 cameras, and use our platform for stitching and visualization of this data to present this data in the way how non-tech savvy people would like to consume it.
Mm-hmm. And what's the deliverable for Geo CV? What
Yeah,
is
so
the output?
yeah, so basically we deliver like a link to the 3D tour, and basically here it's also like, you know, a minor but cool thing that it could be named under the name of the like property or the address of the property. For example, I can say geocv.com/61 James Street. And this is like the link that you can share. It's very short, it's very concise, and it's easy even to type it, and it could be customized.
The photographer is in control of the vanity URL.
Yes, of course we don't like allow like duplicate URLs, but rather than
Yes.
that, that's totally fine. And this link can be, we could also provide the embed code, which is also customizable in terms of, you know, the like the size and the aspect ratio of the
So
screen.
this is iframe.
Yes, this is like
iframe.
basically iframe, and currently like a bunch, like 6 brokerages in New York, which are 6 out of the 10 top brokerages in New York, already support our embeds right into their websites. And actually, for you as a service provider, if you can say to the your broker that, you know, your brokerage already support embeds or of the 3D tools on your websites, that's a big difference. And it's one of the examples with the nest seekers, when basically the 3D viewer, I can once again share the screen.
Yeah, I would add while you're doing that, Anton, that because you deliver iframe as one of the options, that Geo CV plays nice with WP3D models. So for those in the We Get Around Network Forum community that are using WP3D models WordPress plugin or looking at it as a solution for delivering single property websites, imagine where you presently have Matterport, that it could be a Geo CV model.
Yeah, and basically because of the iframe, it's interchangeable with like Matterport, video, or whatever that could be put inside. I can give you a few examples how different brokerages did this with like us. One is embedding the viewer right in the carousel of pictures. So it's like, here's the photos, and the 3D viewer just one of the photo. It's one example. My favorite one is how it's done by Compass, when basically they have like the photos here, and the 3D viewer is embedded right into the listing description, and you don't need to, you know, to click on anything to start interacting with it.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, like speaking about the like integration on the websites, this could be totally done as well. Like, for example, like imagine this to be a single property website, and so on. There are many different examples, I would
Yeah,
say.
so it's great. So if you're using WP 3D models or CoAware or other solution to deliver a property website, as long as that solution uses iframe as an option, then GeoCV will play nice with that
Yeah,
solution.
this is basically the example of CoreWare web page with our 3D tour. And so it's right here.
Yep, CoAware.
Yes.
Koaware is CoAware, another member of the We Get Around Network Forum community, offering property websites for photographers and real estate
Yeah.
agents.
Also, like when you're dealing with MLS and basically Realtor.com, which like syndicates all MLS listings, it can syndicate their virtual tour as well. It's shown via like the button here, so it's like also pretty good stuff uh, to talk about. That is like could be distributed at least in some listing platforms. On the platforms that do not allow 3D tours yet, we have found a pretty slick solution. Basically, we create like a short video, which is like, again, could be customized the way you want it, or you can like create it by yourself. But the cool thing that is have this, link always on top of the video, and in the end, it also have like this call to action item, like go to the 3D tour, and if you click on it, you are teleporting to the 3D tour. In this
Cool.
case, you can distribute like almost everywhere.
Is the video automatically generated
No,
by
it's like it's custom created, and I think that it's a good thing because only you know how you wanna present the space in
Yes.
like 15 or 20 or 30 seconds video.
So this is up to the photographer to create the video.
Yeah, so right now, because we have our own like post-production capacities, we do it the way our clients ask us, but of course the photographer can do it by himself as soon as we release like the do-it-yourself platform. Another
Okay,
thing,
unless you're going to show us something else, let's pop out of
yes.
the share screen. So I think you're back to New York. So presently, GeoCV is operating as a service provider itself, doing one order for multiple markets using freelance people that you're generally keeping busy. But I think what I heard early on is you are actually still looking for more photographers, and ideally you're looking probably for photographers that have experience in 3D, meaning Matterport service providers that maybe have excess capacity, but that you have orders that you're busy trying to fulfill.
Yes, I think we're in a situation with a nice problem to have when we have the demand and we don't have the supply yet. That's why we are definitely very interested to working with photographers in the areas that we are currently serving to work with us and like fulfill this supply. And then after scaling to like more and more locations, it will be like more and more opportunities for us to work with photographers across the US and then globally. Plus, as soon as we release our do-it-yourself solution, even if we're not present in this area in terms of custom acquisition, you can already start doing like your own business the way you can do it with other like virtual tour solutions, but having this option to be like significantly more customizable, I would say.
Mm-hmm. And perhaps a little bit on your background in the company. You've been taking us through a demo. I'm getting excited. As a GeoCV, I understand it's really in the metropolitan New York City, the greater New York City area, with some exceptions in Boston, and starting to move into the other cities of the East Coast based on some of your clients asking you to do that. So do you have some timing on when you plan to go national? And maybe that kind of fits into a little description about, how much money you got, because scaling takes money,
Mhm.
and maybe a little bit about the history of where you've been, where you're going, and
Yeah, of
yeah.
course. So like answering your like last question, Definitely this year we will go national both with the service and do-it-yourself model. I don't want to share, some exact dates yet because it's subject to change and depends on many variables. I can speak a little bit about their personal background as well as their company and product history. And here it will be important, I say, to finally see that though the product it's some things look like similar to Google Street View or Matterport. We have had our own path coming to it, and it was our own learning why it should look like this right now and how it could look like in the future. So my personal background is in 3D computer vision research and development. I have graduated from Moscow State University and Graphics and Media Lab in Russia, and there is like the top university in the country and the top computer vision lab in this university. First 3 years I worked with joint projects with Samsung, and we did a lot of cool scientific stuff. Like imagine that you take a single picture with your phone, and using machine learning, we automatically convert it to a 3D model without like any depth cameras, without stereo or whatever. And it was like 10 years ago, before
Wow.
all this like machine learning and deep learning hype. There was like neural networks were not that strong at that time. And after that, I was a co-founder of 3 companies. One was a profitable but small consulting company. We did some R&D in computer vision, for example, automatic alignment and 3D modeling from aerial images. Then I co-founded a startup that has been eventually acquired, and it was about creating 3D models of buildings' exteriors using sparse regular photos. And the company that has acquired ours used our software for creating 3D map of Moscow and other Russian cities.
Hmm.
And then there was like a third startup, which I usually call like, learning experience because it was not like a business success, but we have learned a lot during it. We have developed a technology for recognition of objects in like Google Street View type of data, like graphic signs, pavement quality, and so on. We have developed the technology that has been better than state of the art, but we have made quite a few mistakes in business. That's why I didn't succeed. But after that, we literally spelled out 45 mistakes that we made, not to repeat them again. And so hopefully right now we are like in a better shape to do the business on a like larger scale. And then like close to the like end of 2013 at the beginning of 2014, we decided to like start our new venture. And literally the same day, my co-founder and we decided, okay, we know how to create 3D models of buildings outside, let's go inside. And when you go inside, everything changes, like the technology, the market applications, the competition, and so on. We saw the opportunity in Connect and started playing around with it. Then we have raised our first money, developed our prototype, and initially our technology was handheld scanning. So basically imagine a phone with a 3D camera. At that point it was Tango device. Yeah, you walk around like this, you wave around, you capture everything around you, and actually you can capture in great quality because you can, kneel down and scan underneath the table. You don't miss almost nothing on like, small spots, and you can come closer so you can have like better texture quality. So the texture like and the quality of geometry of the scans was pretty good. And we have started like pushing this technology to the market. We have been accepted to Rothenberg Ventures River Accelerator in San Francisco.
Which I believe is one of the early investors of Matterport.
Yes, and
early,
it was quite
early VC of Matterport.
Yeah, it was quite curious, for them to make, their second bet, and we have agreed that, they don't tell us anything about Matterport. They don't tell Matterport anything about us because we share some, sensitive information with
And
them.
this is Rothberg Ventures.
Yes, basically
Yes.
at that point, they were the most active investor in virtual reality, and Riva was the #1 accelerator for virtual reality companies. There were like more than 600 applications for like 10 spots or whatever in the program. And we were quite lucky to get accepted. And we have started testing out the technology, and then it has appeared that though people loved the 3D scans, for example, because they are eye-popping and they present the space the way you can't see it like in other way. You can understand the layout, but the problem was that if it's the only representation of the space, the quality was not good enough. So basically, there are some fundamental technological limitations in scanning. For example, the resolution of the camera is not good enough to capture thin objects. And if we talk about scanning, it's hard to capture like transparent objects. And like if you have transparent table in your dining room, it would disappear in the scan. You have the
From those early days of experimentation, you've now turned into, I believe, $2.5 million of funding from 7 different investors, and your team has grown to 20 people in 2 different
yes.
offices with a lot of vision vision engineers.
Yeah, but I think it's important to see this like transition from that early product,
Mm-hmm.
or I say early technology, to the technology and product that we have right now. Honestly, the technology for handheld scanning was one of the best in the world, and basically 2 other startups in our field have made soft M&A offers based on the technology and technical team. But it was not like a product market fit for real estate and other verticals that we have targeted. That's why as a next step, we said, okay, let's use a DSLR camera with a fisheye lens, put it on a tripod, the similar that you do for capturing Google Street View, capture separate 360 images. Then we have taught our software to align these separate 360 images with the scan that we have captured. And that was our like next iteration of the solution. And then we have understood, okay, this is
For clarity, this is some of the history
yes,
of how Geo CV has evolved. Is that you did start out with a DSLR camera and rotating around a special head with a fisheye lens, and so this is kind of some of the backstory of how you've evolved to get to where you are today.
yes. And basically at that point, we have experimented with different ways of combining the experience of the 3D scan and 360 images, for example, that you move through the 3D scan, but when you stop, you see the nearby panorama. But all our user experience tests have showed that so far, when you have the 3D scan and 360 image, the experience that you see in Google Street View or the experience you see in Matterport or in Geo CV is currently the best way to go. And we decided, okay, in this case, why do we need a DSLR camera to capture 360 images? Why do we need 2 steps? We can use the same phone with the same 3D camera to capture both high quality 360 images and 3D data. And we can reuse our like initially built technology and build on top of it to make the product that I have demonstrated today.
And what we've seen is I guess a one solution that is a 3D tour that looks like Matterport. Matterport calls it a dollhouse. You call it a
Basically, our product is called Virtual Open House, but it's not only about the 3D scan, it's about the whole experience, including the 3D scan, smooth walkthrough, and textured 2D floor plan.
So it's the 3D virtual house.
Just Virtual Open House.
Excuse me, the Geo CV virtual open house.
Yes.
It includes the 3D tour, floor plans, photos, and perhaps something else to be determined as you evolve.
Yeah, so basically, like right now as a premium feature, so we can provide this short video that you can post on listing platforms. We can use third-party providers like CoreWare for the single property websites. Some of our photographers do drone video, and they can do drone video for our like customers. In this case, they get like the absolute majority of this like money. So consider us to be like one-stop shop for real estate visual marketing materials, though with the initial focus on 3D tours, and everything else is just the way to support 3D tours and to allow the customer to go to one place to get whatever they want in terms of visual materials.
How about in terms of money? We haven't talked about money. Can you address the different components of cost, or
Yeah.
certainly at least today?
Yeah, so basically, I say that we are still trying to find, the best balance in terms of the pricing to have the largest market share, at the same time to give the skin in the game for us as a company, as well as to have great wages for photographers. So if we go like very far into like the history, we started from crazy numbers like $99 for the 3-year tour. Then it has evolved to $150. Then it has evolved to 10 cents per square foot with a minimum of $200. And basically,
Excuse me, I just for clarification, right now you're speaking as if you were a Matterport service provider, let's call it a Geo CV service provider, and today you're charging as a service provider, who's also happens to be the company that develops the technology, does the processing, capture, processing, hosting, content delivery, that you're presently charging, I think what I just heard, 10 cents a square foot to shoot a Geo CV
virtual open house.
Virtual open house.
Yeah, so basically that was the price that we were using in the second quarter last year. And 90% of the customers were saying like, why is it so cheap? And we understood that at least in New York market, we could definitely go with a higher price and, leave more time, money on the table to photographers as well as to ourselves. So starting this year, we have raised the price to 20 cents per square foot, which includes the 3-year tour, photos, and floor plan. And we are in talks with like many, I say, large brokerages and large customers about volume deals. And in volume deals, we'll definitely give some substantial discounts to incentivize these brokerages to use us, not for your best listing, but to use it by default for each of the listings. And in this case, I think that the combination of affordable technology and convenient service without compromising the high quality of the results could help us go all together with our service providers and photographers from like few percents of market share that all other virtual tour providers have total to like dozens percents of market share, at least in the markets that we start operating is on a like larger scale, starting from New York, for example. And if we are successful here, basically, if you have done this in New York, you can do this anywhere. So if we are successful here, we can, with some tuning, replicate this in other markets. And the good thing about New York that it's a good and bad thing. Manhattan doesn't have MLS, so there's like a monopoly of Street Easy, basically syndicating all the listing information. And if we have like, I don't know, 20, 30, 40, 50% of listings on Manhattan, it makes sense for Street Easy to support us. If Street Easy supports us, Zillow will support us. If Zillow would support us, everyone will support us in terms of at least, native embedding of the 3-year tours, which I believe is one of the largest concerns of everyone in this market.
Gee, I got so many questions. So we were going back to cost. You were talking about as a service provider, but how about, okay, now you've moved out of New York. I'm a photographer. I want to run my own business. What's it going to cost me to buy whatever it is that I need to get? Hardware, software, hosting, processing.
Yeah, the price is to be defined because we need to understand this like processes more, but I think it will be very competitive with other solutions in the market.
Okay. And then I think what I'm hearing in terms of how does Geo CV scale the business, I would imagine there's two things. One is moving beyond the present East Coast,
Mhm.
and second, into other verticals other than residential real estate.
Yes, definitely. So basically, before we have decided to go into real estate, we have analyzed over 80 different market segments and applications, and we have made educated choice about going into real estate marketing first as our beachhead market. But the general vision is basically the following: that if we look at any brick and mortar, yeah, there is like a life cycle of this real estate, starting from construction to actually sale or rent, to property management, to property insurance, to interior design, and even to moving between two spaces. And in each of these like actions, there are always either photos or measurements like floor plans or both of them. And basically our virtual open house is the new generation of combination of measurements of floor plans and photography. So wherever you can use floor plans or photos, you can benefit from using the 3D tours. So the idea is that starting from real estate, we can then go to these verticals like property management, property insurance, interior design, moving, construction. And at the same time, the cool thing is that we go into the property at the moment when it changes hands, and most of the stuff happens when the property changes hands. Like then you need furniture, then you need moving, then basically you probably need your mortgage or insurance. And this 3 tour has been already been paid by the real estate broker and have delivered benefits to real estate broker and to the seller. And then other guys in the ecosystem can reuse this data for their purposes. For example, imagine that you have just sold and bought a property, and there is a 3 tour of one of each of them. Then the interior design or furniture retail company can immediately, without going on site, give you an offer what kind of furniture you want to have there and how it would look like. Your property insurance company can give you a better like quote, because they know more information about this property rather than just relying on some paperwork or documentation. When you move from place to place, people can estimate how much volume do you need and how much trucks do you need for this. And even the property management company can better understand, where the light bulbs are located in this particular building, apartment, or what is the model of the HVAC unit in the basement. So basically, capturing the space once, we can then leverage this data many, many times for different verticals not related to visual real estate marketing. And this is
Mm-hmm.
basically our like general vision how we can grow beyond real estate. And if we talk about the very distant future, I foresee that more and more people will get used to wearing augmented reality headsets like Magic Leap, and they will be the size of your eyeglasses, not this crazy stuff that they have recently showed. Yes, and in this case, you will have already all the sensors and cameras inside them that will allow you as a consumer to capture the world around you. And then you can share it in this augmented reality for other people to experience it similar to you, with the ability, to move around a little bit and to see everything with a sense of depth. So this is our vision: start from real estate, scale to other brick and mortar related industries, and keep on track on like more prosumer and consumer opportunities.
Mm-hmm. So I think I've heard two scaling opportunities: scaling beyond New York or the East Coast, scaling up to 80 different verticals. Uh, um,
80 was the analysis. Not all of them are like real
uh,
businesses,
okay,
but there
got
are at least 5 of them
Well,
that
I like
can
to
do
think
this.
there's 101 different uses for 3D
Yeah.
tours. So I'm going, where's 80? How about 101? So pick a round number. But of the 80 verticals that you explored, there are obviously other verticals, and so you're looking at that. You haven't mentioned international at all. Is that
Yeah, so basically, initially we decided to start from the US market because it's the largest consolidated market of a single country. But of course, our vision is global, and like originally I'm from like another country and I look at the whole world. We don't have, I say, immediate plans to go globally like in short term, but this is definitely in our vision. And like constantly we get, requests from both like brokerages, uh, real estate owners and photographers across the world that they want to use our solution. So we just uh, keep them in our list, and whenever we're ready, will be welcoming them to start using it.
Yeah, well, Anton, I could imagine, for Geo CV to expand beyond the East Coast, to expand into other verticals, to expand internationally, perhaps expand with strategic alliances. I imagine that takes a lot of money. It's not funded internally. Your VC funding you mentioned earlier, so far $2.5 million, seven investors, including Rothberg Ventures.
Mhm.
Um, uh, are you seeking investment?
Yeah, so basically, we are currently planning to raise Series A round during this year. Uh, we are in talks of like in the with the most interested investors who wanna jump on board, early on. That's why it's definitely something that we're eager to discuss with someone that who believes in our vision. Before that, we have raised a couple of pre-seed and seed rounds. In addition to Rothenberg Ventures, we have a few other really great investors backing us. For example, Runa Capital, which is founded by the founders of Acronis and Parallels, which are really large IT corporations. We have Starter Capital, which currently have an accelerator in New York. We have like Hammer Capital from Moscow, as well as Universe VC, and a couple of professional angels from New York. So like we get money both from Silicon Valley, New York, and our original country, and the investors are really helpful in like pushing us as a company forward.
Cool. I kind of have some miscellaneous questions.
Mhm.
Google Street View. What are your plans for enabling Geo CV tours to be published to Google Maps?
Yeah, definitely. So we have explored this question, and it won't be hard for us to become Google Street View ready. The good thing is that soon enough, Google would support geometrical layer, so we can leverage our geometry as well to provide the more seamless transitions in panoramas for Google Street View experience. Right now, because we're focusing mainly on like residential real estate, because of the like Google Street View policy, you actually can't publish like private real estate spaces on Google Street View. But because some of our spaces are for multifamily, like showrooms or demo models, as well as for like some retail spaces, we see more and more like a demand for being able to be like Google Street View ready. So it's like it's coming, not just tomorrow.
Yes, and so I would imagine the interesting thing about being Google Street View ready when you're ready to do that implementation is because of either this process of photogrammetry or scan data or whatever technology you're going to be used to have depth data
Yes.
that 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 Google has a roadmap to take advantage of depth data from those that are providing depth data in
Mhm.
order to enable the Google Street View experience to be that much better in transitioning from what we think of one photo, one 360 photo to the next 360 photo, but really to kind of be able to have the depth data to make that a much more natural walkthrough. And your platform GeoCV already has the foundation of depth data being part of its DNA.
Yes, definitely. Plus, I would say because we leverage this depth data also for alignment of panoramas, the photographer won't need to spend literally any time on any alignment or correcting the alignment in case of, more complex spaces where relying just on images might not be enough.
Mm-hmm. And I imagine you bump into Matterport when you're visiting with real estate agents and brokers in the greater New York area, Boston. Um, why have you been winning some of this business that and Matterport is not?
Yeah. So first of all, I would say that currently, like honestly, not everyone have heard about every other virtual tour solution. So what we show is still very new to many customers, but there are a couple of, I would say, selling points that make our customers go with us rather than with everyone else. Um, One is that we deliver great quality and it could be customized to the customer's demand, starting from some tiny things like, removing camera reflection. Second one is that we deliver this at great cost and very conveniently. You don't need, to search for different service providers in different areas, or you don't need to buy a camera by yourself and learn how to do it and so on. And I believe this combination of the being able to deliver the great quality at a great price with a convenient service is very appealing to everyone who is eager to get the service. And actually, when we have started, our initial idea was not related to service at all. We told people like, here's the technology, go use it by yourself. But we have understood that there was just two different categories of customers, and some of them would prefer a service, even if it could be done easily by yourself, just because they get used to a service, and they would prefer not to spend time not on their core business, but they would either pay us to do this for them, and they can spend this time for like pitching new clients. And then there are people who have the ability and the capacity to do it by themselves. I mean, not only service providers, but some agents and brokerages. And in this case, they can go with a do-it-yourself solution. But even there, if they see that our offering is like reasonable in terms of the price, turnaround time, and deliverable quality and other stuff, it's sometimes easier for them to go with us rather than do it by themselves. Another thing that we have learned in this business is that 3D tours are definitely great, but people still need regular visuals like photos and floor plans. So we have understood that when we offer them the whole package, and they don't need to order photos from someone else and floor plan from another third provider, it's significantly more convenient for them. Plus, their price drops because you don't need three different people to do like one job.
Yeah, and probably to interject there, because I know you're looking for seasoned pros, 3D photographers. That's likely to be a Matterport service provider in the greater New York area, potentially in Boston, Philadelphia, etc. And I think we were talking earlier before going on camera that one of the ways that you all you're a premium member in the We Get Around Network Forum, WGAN. I believe that we've probably made it super easy, super fast for you to find pros. And I think that was one of the strategies that you were using to source pros. So it's not so much, sending off an email to Geo CV or to Anton, but to get on the We Get Around Network Forum map so that when you are looking for a pro, we've already made it super easy and super fast to find seasoned Matterport pros that already not only understand 3D tour, how to shoot, but also offer photos, floor plans, video, aerial, whatever the visual storytelling solution is, just makes it super easy for you to find what you need. I think that's what we talked about prior to air.
Yeah, definitely. I honestly want to say thank you for this map. It's really helpful for us. And as soon as we scale nationally and internationally, it would be even more helpful because I think that for like people who already are in this business and have some skill sets, it will be much easier, learning curve for them to start working with us rather than someone that have never done this before. At the same time, I think that the solution is like easy enough. And like in 5 minutes, you can start doing something. And then after a few scans, you start learning, tips and tricks. But of course, if we, mix this with professional photography and just being like a customer oriented professional, because it's not only about the skill sets, it's also about how you like operate on site, how do you talk to the customer, and so on. I think this is like invaluable from someone who already has this experience.
And even though GeoCV is really at the moment in the East Coast, or primarily in the Northeast, you've been managing to get some amazing media coverage.
Yeah, so basically, TechCrunch and Forbes and Inman have written a bunch of articles about us, and it was kind of cool because they have done this mostly by themselves rather than us pitching them to do this. And this year at Inman Connect in New York, I will be speaking on stage together with Bill Brown, Matterport CEO, which is kind of a cool and flattering and curious to see. We'll be on the panel about visual revolution and what's next in VR, 3D, and virtual tours.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'll read a bit because this is Inman Connect. You're scheduled for 8:45 a.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday, January 23rd. That's next week on Tuesday. Panel titled "Visual Revolution: Breakthroughs in Virtual Reality, 3D, and Video, and What Is New and Around the Bend." And the panel that you're on includes Matterport CEO Bill Brown. So I think that's very exciting. I think it's a little bit of a David and Goliath in terms of the amount of funding that Matterport has gotten. I think upwards of 70 million. I'll forget the exact number. Versus your 2.5, and yet I think Inman has recognized the innovation of what you're doing to have you on this panel. WGAN TV will live stream that session from Inman Connect. So if you all want to watch this panel, if you're not able to attend Inman Connect in person, just come back here. It'll be a live stream, 8:45 a.m. Eastern Time. That's Greenwich Mean Time minus 5 hours on Tuesday, January 23rd, 2018, so that we'll have an opportunity to hear perhaps Matterport versus Geo CV, Matterport CEO Bill Brown, Geo CV CEO and co-founder Anton Yakubenko. And I think that's very exciting that for the WGAN, the We Get Around Network Forum community, to be able to hear and see you all discuss this revolution in visual storytelling.
Yeah, definitely. I think that one of the trends here is basically the new hardware which appears in the market and which becomes more and more affordable. Like even after the CES, you could see like a handful of 3D cameras,
This is
360.
the 2008 Consumer Electronics Show just held last week in Las Vegas, where there were a number of new 360 cameras announced and some iterations in some existing cameras.
Yeah, and I think like we're just like in the right place in the right time to leverage the new generation hardware coming to the market and build our technology and business on top of it.
Fantastic. What haven't we covered that we should talk about?
Um, Let me double check. Maybe I can share like a couple of, like I say, tips that we meet in this business because we really want to, feel ourselves in the shoes of service providers and photographers. So like most of the clients are really excited and, they are ready to jump in like after the first call or meeting. But if we talk about the concerns, there are usually two major concerns that we hear, and I believe we have found good ways to answer these concerns. One is basically the distribution problem. I mean, like when you create the 3D tour, the question is, where do I publish it? And luckily, there are quite a few opportunities right now. There are like single property websites, which is actually a new opportunity for photographer to like upsell the client and motivate why he needs this website. Like many listing platforms support 3D tours, at least in some way, at least like with a button. With a video, you can put it like literally everywhere. You can share it on social media using like Facebook Panorama, which we also do export. So you can do it like some Facebook posts in a very interactive fashion. And the good thing is that at least in New York, like a number of top brokerages already support us on their websites. And I hope that more and more of them like supporting us on their websites first. They will then basically convince the big guys to support us on the like at least local and then national level in terms of the listing platforms. So this problem, it exists, but there are solutions right now, and the better solutions are coming. The second concern that we hear is basically a fear of the real estate broker that presenting the property in such a transparent way, they basically could lose some of the potential leads, which would take a look at the property online. They probably won't like, some minor things, and they won't come in person. But if they come in person, the realtor could probably use his charisma and sales skills to convince the potential home buyer and say, it's not actually that a big deal, that a big problem. And initially we tried, to prove them wrong, but we have understood that maybe it's not the right approach. It's like it's their business and the way how they want to do it. So what we say right now, we say that, okay, if your property looks good, and honestly, most properties look good, the ones that have professional photography and 3D tours, try to publish it as as many places as possible. In this case, you can drive more qualified leads and close the deal faster and probably get more bids and sell it at a higher price. But if you're on the fence and you're not completely sure about this and that and the property, don't show it online first. But when you have the potential home buyer or tenant on site, send it as a follow-up. Share it among your brokerages, share it with other brokers. In this case, you don't lose anyone, but you give the opportunity for, at least for the home buyer, to revisit the space virtually after the visit. And I remember that when I was looking for an apartment, when you look maybe 3 homes a day, 6 weekends, 12 in 2 weeks, after 2 weeks, everything is a mess. So if I had an opportunity to go back and revisit this place virtually, it would be very helpful for me. And what I did as a consumer, I was just shooting videos and then sharing it with my wife so we can discuss, where we want to put the bed or whatever. But the videos are not interactive, and that's why you can't capture everything in a video. And virtual tours give this virtual revisit opportunity. Plus, if your client have lived, in this apartment for 5 or 10 years, just present him, this is a gift of the deal has been closed, for him to have some memory about the space where he lived in. So I think that we as a service providers, no matter what kind of solution do we use, we should listen to the customers and understand their pain points and not argue them, but find the way to handle these concerns, which have some truth behind them, but which have options to be solved.
Terrific. What else should we cover that we haven't talked about?
Give me a moment. I have like the
Okay.
uh,
While Anton's looking at his notes, I
yeah.
would add to his comment that he just made is uh, um, agents care about making money. They're salespeople. So your pitch is win more listings, win bigger premium listings, win more and bigger premium listings, win more and bigger premium listings more often. It's not about the what that imagery looks like. It's like if the agent is going out to do a listing presentation and they're talking to three different agents, and the agent, notice I haven't even said Geo CV or Matterport. It really doesn't matter if you have something that's going to help differentiate yourself from another agent. Then you have an opportunity excuse me, to win a listing presentation because the homeowner cares about getting the most offers as quick as possible for the most money with the least amount of stress. And stress being, I don't have to uh, clean the house, pack up the kids, and step out for less than 20 minutes of someone to do a walkthrough to tell me, I'm sorry, but I couldn't visualize the layout of the house and it's not right for me. It may very well be that a 3D tour is going to, or a virtual open house is going to result in fewer people. And the agent, if their previous thinking about metrics was, I want to be able to say we had the most number of people physically walking through, headline as a homeowner, I don't care how many people have come walk through my house to buy it. I care that they're the fewest amount of people come through the house who are the most qualified because they've actually looked at the 3D tour, they've looked at the virtual open house, and they're the ones who are maybe just want to knock on the wall and make sure it's not going to fall over. And I would also add, I know Anton, you're looking over your notes just so we finish up on any points, but I want to add that I've read a statistic that said 20% of all real estate sold has been sold to people who've not physically walked through the property. And many of those decisions have probably been made looking at crappy imagery. Imagine if you have a virtual open house, a 3D tour, the amount of real estate that could be continue to be sold, with the most offers, the fastest, for the most money with the fewest amount of visits, so that the homeowner can move on to their new life wherever it is that they're moving to and want to get out from under whatever it is that they got. And I think, Anton, even reading through some of your press coverage, I noticed there was at least one agent that did talk about getting an offer from a homeowner that never physically walked through, but had looked at one of the GeoCV Geo CV virtual open houses, and made an offer sight unseen.
Yeah, basically we have had quite a few, like very curious success stories of agents using our services. One that you have mentioned, another one, basically our client was selling a foreclosure townhouse, which looked like, like a ghost mansion or something like this. It was in an extremely bad condition. And it's a curious example of how you can leverage the 3D tour in a little bit different way if you are a little bit creative. So he published like one photo, of a front of the house because it looks good, but he didn't publish anything inside, not, to frighten people away. But when he got a lead, he sent them the virtual tour and said, this townhouse has super great price, but it requires quite an investment to make a live in it. And that really worked. He closed the deal in like 2 weeks. I thought that it will take, I don't know, many, many months to sell that kind of property. So I think that we are here to educate our customers and help them to use the technology the right way. I think it's a very wrong attitude if you just deliver the deliverable and do not do any hand holding, because we know that people without this help, they can try it once, they don't understand how to use it, and they stop using it. So in the beginning, it is our job altogether to educate our customers how they can leverage this technology better. Because as you said, it's not about the technology, it's about the value that this technology brings to the customer, to the consumer, and to us who serve them. In terms of, the things that I probably have skipped before or want to emphasize, there are a couple of things. One, in terms of the features, we already have a couple like cool features that other guys don't have, or at least I'm not familiar with, or at least not all have. Like our tools could be downloaded and viewed offline, like on a desktop device, for example. With some clients, we explore the ways for like self-hosting. So for the absolute majority of them, I think that self-hosting is like a bad decision. But if there are some cases when you want to be, in full control of your data, and in this case, self-hosting is a great thing. We can put like a background panorama instead of this gray background. For example, if you're shooting something nearby Central Park or any other scenic viewpoint, you probably want to show, some context, that it's not like just a space, it's something inside, like inside the context, and some other stuff. We have a huge list of features in the backlog, but we don't want to be like a closed platform and, decide everything by ourselves. We want to base our decisions on the feedback and wants of our current and future customers. That's why I basically encourage everyone who is interested in getting like the best solution that they can get in the world of virtual tours, just reach out to us and share your thoughts in terms of what features I want to see in your solution. Like imagine you can get any virtual tour solution in the world, what would it be? Share it with
And
us.
I'm going to suggest a great place to do that is the We Get Around Network
Yes.
Forum. Anton is a premium member in the We Get Around Network Forum. His name in the forum is actually at Anton Yakubenko. Yakubenko. We're missing an O. I think your name does. It's a little bit longer than is allowed on our television program here, but Anton Yakubenko, Anton Yakubenko, in the forum. And so if you have, in fact, we do have a discussion going on right now about this program, and if you, we've been chatting here for about 2 hours, and if you've missed any portion, we have been recording it, and by tomorrow we will placed it in the We Get Around Network forum in the discussion about WGAN-TV, Matterport versus Geo CV, and I think that's a great place to ask questions
Yeah,
for Anton,
and
and
we
he's.
do read the forum, so we'll be definitely happy to answer it. Maybe you can expect some delay because of the Inman event coming that soon, but anyway, I would appreciate any kind of the feedback. Yeah.
Yes, and I would just say you've been tremendously responsive. As anytime anyone has had any question about Geo CV or something, that it's the co-founder and CEO who actually takes the time to respond to questions regarding Geo CV. And if you want to see any of the previous discussions, just use the search box. It's powered by Google and the We Get Around Network forum. Just enter Geo CV and it'll pop up. You can also look for discussions that have been tagged Geo CV. So
Yeah, and basically, I say my personal approach is to be deeply involved and to really understand in details how the user experience works in like different sites. So for several months last year, I was acting as our photographer as well. So each day I walked in like 2, 3 shoots and was like understanding how it looks like from the service provider perspective. And I think it's like very important not to be distant from your product and your customers.
yes, and I know you like to ask questions because I recall going out to dinner with you at Inman Connect San Francisco, I believe last year, if not the year before, and you had a lot of questions because you really you want customer insight, and I guess in my case it was the insight of a Matterport service provider and trying to understand Anyway, so
Yeah, definitely. And basically, the second thing that I want to touch upon is, I'd say, our mindset as service providers. I think that in our case, as a company as well, we want to make more money, of course. And at the same time, I want to find the best balance between the amount of money we charge or you as a service provider charge for each particular job and the market share that we together can like capture. If you took a look at the like whole professional photography and virtual tours market, maybe around 15% of listings have professional photography. It's not that a big number. And if you look at like virtual tours, it may be like what, 4%, something like this. And I'm not talking about, for example, rentals where the situation is even worse if we're not talking about like multifamily buildings. So I think that if we could change our mindset from margin game to a volume game and say that instead of charging one customer $1,000 but having one customer per day, I would have 5 customers per day and charge them $200, and maybe I will need to work a little bit harder and my margin on each of the orders will be lower than I used to, but I have a constant flow of the orders and it's like sustainable and growing business. And altogether we change this industry. This is the way that I want to go. So basically, initially we had zero intentions to even touch service business, but we have understood that if we want help to basically set up kind of a standard and organize people around this movement that each listing deserves a 3-year tour, nothing would change. I don't see without these like changes in technologies and mindsets that this year, next year, or in 5 years, we'll see 50% of listings in 3D. But if we collaborate and agree that it could become like a volume game rather than a margin game, but all of us could still have a skin in the game and make enough money, that's the way to go. That's why we have like developed this affordable technology and this scalable business model involving all the parties, but a little bit differently than they have been involved before. Now we can provide not only technology, but also the flow of like real customers, not just interested leads.
terrific.
Yeah.
What else?
So basically, in the end, I would like just to summarize something that, because it was like 2 hours, I want people, just to remember some bullet points that Geo CV is a 3D capture and reality company. We are hardware agnostic, and we currently use smartphones with 3D cameras for capturing, which makes the solution very affordable and scalable. We deliver, we're basically only one of the 2 companies being able to achieve this true 3D and 360 experience. And we're always in the search of forward-looking customers among real estate and other industries, and in search of service providers, first starting from New York, East Coast, and then nationally and globally.
Terrific. Anton, thank you so much for joining today. I've thoroughly enjoyed visiting with you, learned a lot, covered a lot of ground. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dan, for the invitation. Would always be happy to keep you updated.
Thank you. We should do a little selfie here with a thumbs up. We'll have a nice picture for our put in the forum. Okay, snapshot. Good. And thank you, Anton. And thank you all for tuning in. You've been watching WGAN TV live at 5. Today's guest has been Geo CV co-founder and CEO Anton Yakubenko, PhD, and who has not only taken us through kind of how Geo CV compares to Matterport versus Geo CV, but it's kind of given us the story, the history, and the future of where Geo CV is headed. If you've missed any portion of the program, we have recorded it. By tomorrow, we'll have it published in the We Get Around Network forum. Thank you all for tuning in from, I want to say, New York City, yes. Anton? From New York City and snowy Atlanta, Georgia. I'm Dan Smigrod. Thanks for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, Anton, we've signed off from the forum. We've stopped the
Okay.
recording, and I'm going to rush upstairs to go have dinner with my wife. And thank you
Okay.
again.
Yeah,
Good luck
bon appetit.
in New York. Okay,
Okay.
thank
See
you.
you. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.